So everybody, buckle up. Here we go. Happy July 1. Oh my gosh, July 4th on Friday. Everybody just kind of, I'll get to it at the end of it, but drop your, just leave a comment. Are you going to go watch fireworks? What do you do? Can you shoot off fireworks where you live? Like where I live, I can go to my lake house and we can shoot off fireworks, but not in where my house is. So what are you doing for 4th of July? And with that, I'm just going to welcome to the Foreclosures Daily webinar. I'm your host, Nancy Wallace-Laabs, and I founded Money Makin Mamas. And if you don't know this, Foreclosures Daily has been around since 2004, connecting motivated sellers with buyers. And I've been a client of theirs since 2018. Of course, I started when I was very young. Okay, here we go. What's happening? Oh, there we go. Okay, so who am I? Nancy Wallace-Laabs. I want to welcome you to the ForeclosuresDaily.com. We have this the first Tuesday of every month, and I will be hosting tonight. And so we're going to do the format a little bit different. I'm going to talk about that later. But what about me? I'm a licensed real estate broker here in Texas. I wrote the book Winning Heels and Deals, which you're going to get a copy of. I don't know if you can see that where I hold it up. And I do investing single-family homes. And my specialty is finding off-market properties, particularly using pre-probate leads that I get from ForeclosuresDaily.com. And I have found that that's a low competition opportunity before they hit the probate process, which is kind of funny because Bruce and I are going to talk about that. So like I said, I've been using the Foreclosures Daily leads since 2018. I also co-founded Money Makin Mamas with my daughter, Kelsey. That's a picture of my beautiful daughter. And we coach busy moms through a 4-week plan to start investing in today's market. And we're going to talk about the market tonight, like in Texas and North Carolina and Florida. And we also include our pre-probate deal system where we teach you how to work these pre-probate leads. So if you want my free pre-probate, that's a mouthful, starter kit, all you have to do is follow me on Instagram at Nancy Wallace-Laabs and Money_Makin Mamas, or visit our website and just shoot me a DM on either Instagram. Just say, hey, send me that, Nancy. Okay, you have to tell me what you want me to send. Now, before I introduce tonight's guest speaker, I'm going to walk you through what makes Foreclosures Daily such a powerful resource and what you'll be getting access to as a client. So first off, Foreclosures Daily is a trusted nationwide real estate lead partner. They connect investors, realtors, attorneys, and first-time buyers with high-quality leads. They're an industry leader. As I said, they've been around since 2004. Oh my gosh, that's like, what is that? It's like 21 years now. Is that right? 21? Yes.
Right.
They've become the internet's top destination for detailed, timely real estate information. And it's expertise that you can trust. They have a commitment to excellence and ensures that you receive the most accurate and up-to-date data available. Now, I will say that how are they different? Well, first of all, they're real estate focused. I've used other list companies in the past, and I have found some of the list companies out there don't always come with real estate. And so if you are looking for off-market properties, I don't really care about art collections or gun collections or coin collections because I'm looking for real estate. The pre-probate leads, for example, they are delivered weekly to my inbox when I get up, they're there. So depending on the type of lead that you could get leads daily, weekly, or monthly. And the way they do it is there's a property appraisal process on most types. So on the pre-probate leads, I know what the value of the property is that I'm going to market to. It's specialized for real estate, unlike reports from other companies, and their data is farmed exclusively for the real estate market. So not just investors, but also real estate realtors that are looking for listings. A lot of realtors don't know that you could utilize these leads to get listings. So they prioritize delivering up-to-date target information to keep you ahead of the game. So what kind of leads do they have? Well, we're going to talk about probate tonight. But they also have pre-probate, and those are the leads that I use. Absentee owners, so that means maybe a tired landlord or something like that. Divorce list, distressed, code violations, eviction list, inheritance list, inherited properties, auctions, tax liens, Okay, Liz Pence, somebody's going to help me one day with the correct pronunciation, and cash buyers. So they have all kinds of, and you don't have to buy every single one of these. Like for me, I just focus on the pre-probate. That keeps me plenty busy, and I get enough leads that I have a good pipeline. But in addition, they don't just sell leads. They actually help support your business, whether you're a realtor, whether you're an investor, and they will kind of walk you through some of the marketing tools, like they call it the toolbox. So you can work with a company called Marketing by Hand and, have handwritten. I'm going to kind of show you a card here. I don't know if you guys can see it. Can you see it? Okay, this was done by them, and you'll notice that it's addressed to the person, has my return address. And then down here, it couldn't be returned to sender. So I might need to skip trace that one, right? You can use live operators like Pat Live, Call Porter. Now, these are extra things that you do pay for. That it doesn't come with it. It's just ways that the ways that they help support your marketing and trying to, get these properties under contract. And then you'll get sample letters and things like that. So they don't just sell you leads. They help you be successful. Now, you also get, I already said this, but new clients will receive Nancy's book, Winning Deals and Heels. And this is about my story and 9 of my other investor women friends about how we overcame obstacles and achieved success in real estate investing. And the reason I wrote this book was I like to give back. So this book is on Amazon. I know you're going to get a free copy, but if you have a friend, girlfriend, mom, mother, somebody's graduation, every sale of the book supports a nonprofit here in Plano, Texas called Hope's Door, which Hope's Door helps families heal from domestic violence. So some of the proceeds go to them. This is an example of marketing by hand. So most of the time, not always, but when you're dealing with probate, pre-probate, the idea of if you're going to do direct mail is to get the person to open it, right? You can spend a ton of money on, I used to do yellow letters back in the day. Bruce, you probably know what those are, right?
Oh, yeah.
I don't think I ever got a deal with yellow letters because you're not the only investor. You're not the only realtor out there. So the idea is that you need the person to open, to read your message, to give you a call. And tonight we're going to talk about different ways you can market to these different leads. But this is just an example, and you can see how pretty that is. Look at that red. I mean, once you open that, it looks like an invitation. So, and Wendy and them, they do a great job there. Oh, wrong way. Here we go. Now we're going to get into the featured guest expert, and we're going to dive deeper with tonight's special guest sharing real-world strategies and proven insights to help you take action with your foreclosure daily leads. So grab your pens, mute the distractions. This is the part you don't want to miss. So I'm going to be bringing on here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop my share. And Bruce and I are actually, we decided that this would be, since I do pre-probate, he does probate, and we've both been doing it for a long time. What we're going to do is kind of have a participation Q&A session, if you will. Now, if you all think of some questions while him and I are talking, you go ahead and drop them in there. And we might, depending on where we're at, but we're going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff. But Bruce is a coach at Probate Mastery, and I loved his, I got this off of his LinkedIn. He posted this: you're guiding families through one of the hardest transitions of their lives. And when you show up with real knowledge and a heart to help, business follows naturally. Clients trust you, referrals remember you. And you know what, Bruce, I was like, oh, that just really resonated with me. He's been an investor. He's been doing this. I'm going to let him tell his story. But Bruce, welcome. I'm going to go ahead and stop share so you and I can just be yakking. Thanks, so yay, welcome to the webinar tonight.
I appreciate it. Good to be here. Good to be here.
So tell the audience about your background. Like, when we got started, you were telling me, what did you do before you became a realtor/investor? And then how did you get where you're at today?
Well, this is where we're either going to lose people that want to only want to learn from someone who's always had success, or we're going to get people really excited that maybe are worried about the struggle a little bit. So I got licensed as a realtor in 2004 in Virginia. And I was super excited. I took out a small business loan to get my business started, and I marketed and I called and I built relationships and I did all the things that they teach you as realtors. And I know we have a bunch of investors here. So I was not an investor for a long time. So I was doing the realtor things, and I sold a whopping one house in my full first year of real estate. And I made $1,800. Okay, and then I figured everything out, and I sold three houses the next year, and I made $6,000 full time. And about that time, I was like, hey, you know what? I think I'm gonna have to just go get another job. But I stuck it out, actually moved markets, and over the next 2 years, I actually did figure things out, and I ended up moving into a season where I was selling, listing as a listing agent, selling over 100 properties a year through the downturn and the '08 crash, '07, '08 crash. Through that, started getting business from radio and marketing and doing a bunch of different things. And all through that time, I was getting estate properties and probate properties on accident. So I was learning a little bit about the process and making good money, running a successful real estate team then. And for some reason, I got this harebrained idea to move again. So I moved out of Virginia and moved into Raleigh, North Carolina, and I left behind all those hundreds at the time, hundreds, multiple hundreds of deals every year in the old market. Left it behind, and I moved to a market where I knew nobody. Now, in the good years, I started investing as well. So we picked up a few properties here and there. We were one of those annoying people that ran radio ads that said, we'll sell your house at market value, or we'll buy it. And we actually bought a number of those. And moving into a new market where I didn't know anyone, I was like, how the heck? I mean, I'm in the moving truck, and I went, I think I made a mistake. I don't know anyone. Where am I going to get business? So I called a buddy of mine who was a competitor, and I was like, hey, where are you getting your business? Because all my business was coming from radio and sphere of influence and a farm that was well established and buyer internet leads. And I don't have any of that there. And he was like, oh, Bruce, you got to do probate. That's it. And so we had this long discussion while I was in the moving truck, and broke down a business plan for probate. And I was able to hit the ground running in my new market in that first year. With probate being really heavy, I got 43 closed transactions, all as a realtor then. I hadn't transitioned back into any kind of investing, but 43 deals with probate being the cornerstone then. And it's just been kind of a upward trajectory from there. Trajectory. I'm struggling with that word from that point until in 2020 I started coaching and training in this space. That's where I am now.
Okay, very good. I know, you know what? My story is that I relocated from Phoenix
Hmm.
to the Dallas area, and we actually took advantage of when the market shifted back in 2005 or whatever. I looked at my husband, he looked at me, we're like, oh my gosh, when can we make this kind of money? Boom. And we just literally put our house on the market, and we moved within 3 weeks and got to Texas. And
Yeah.
then Texas hadn't really seen that boom yet. And so we were able to start investing. Like I think I mentioned my first rental property, we paid like, $115,000 for it. And I actually used a realtor. So I didn't know anything about anything. We got it off the MLS. I didn't know anything about,
Hmm.
where to find investing properties. I had read and watched so many HGTV. I was like, okay, I was such a naive newbie about, oh, what does off market
Yeah.
mean? What does that mean?
Yeah.
So I get that. And then I think the first three or four properties I actually did buy off the MLS. I mean, now I was lucky because, at that time, the properties were good. And
Hmm.
today I just use the MLS to, verify that the ARV is right.
Right. Yeah. I don't use the MLS to buy at all. So.
Yeah, yeah. And when people tell me like, "Oh, I'm going to find MLS," although I will say from time to time you can find handyman
Mhm.
specials, right? But then the conversation, and we do have realtors on here, and I think I'd like to say this to my realtors. I can say this too. is that if you have a house that's listed, because one of my bylines is like, I buy houses that realtors can't sell.
Mhm.
And, that just kind of leads us into the market because right now in the Dallas Fort Worth area, houses are staying on the market longer than they have. I mean, like we're up to 5 months of inventory. So, not really good if you're a realtor because they're not flying off the shelf like they were, even a year ago. But great if you're an investor because it just gives you more leverage. So, but well, let's
Right.
just jump right into then the whole marketing and prospecting. So, since you do pre-probate, what kind of forms of marketing do you do when you get a list of probate people?
Probate. Okay, so you do pre-probate, I do
I do
probate for the
pre,
most part.
yeah. And so
Yeah.
just for anybody that doesn't know, pre-probate means they did not file in any courts or whatever. So in Texas, we don't a property does not have to go through the probate process. We have a system called you have to do affidavit heirship, blah 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 blah. And so but the marketing is a little bit different, and so I think it'll
Mhm.
be interesting to see how you market to them and how I
Yeah.
market to them. But you were telling me in North Carolina the property doesn't have to go through probate either.
Normally it doesn't. The reality is, and just this is going to be super basic for a lot of people, so I'll make it really fast. Um, with estates, what I do, okay, what I do is I help families with estate administration. And it just so happens that my lists that you guys get from Foreclosures Daily, my lists are probate. So that's where I identify like a direct target that I'm going to chase. But really, what I'm helping with is the estate administration process. If somebody
Mm,
is inheriting real estate that is being directly transferred to the heirs, maybe there's rights of survivorship, or there's like a ladybird deed, or it's in trust or anything like that, I help with that too. All of it's estate administration. Um, it just so happens that I use the buzzword probate because that's where my list is. It
exactly.
doesn't matter if it's
So
pre-probate or inheritance or trusts or whatever it is. Just
except that like on probate, so you get the personal representative and the attorney, right? You have
correct.
that access to that. So on the
Hmm.
pre-probate list, you don't have access to that because there is no personal representative yet or attorney. So I'm directly going after the family, but you're actually having ways that you can, because there's marketing that you can do to attorneys, there's
Absolutely.
marketing you do. So, what is tell us like how you actually market to these lists? Like, do you
Absolutely.
call them? Do you send them a letter?
Well, let me tell you how I did it in the beginning.
Okay.
And then how it's evolved since then. So in the beginning, and this was good for 1 to 3 appointments a month. So early on in 2015, 2016, 2017, I would get my list and I would do a letter. I'd follow it with a call. A month later, I'd do a letter. I'd follow it with a call. A month later, I'd do another letter. I'd follow it with a call. So 3 letters, 3 calls. People did answer the phone a little bit more frequently in 2015 through 2017, but not a lot. Not a lot. That was generally good, either whether I got them on the phone with me reaching out to them or them calling me back on a letter. That was generally good for between 1 and 3 appointments per month. Now, being a realtor and an investor, being able to offer both solutions, more than that, I offer multiple listing solutions, multiple buying solutions. Being with that, I would capture typically 70 to 80% of my appointments. Um, and I do encourage those of you that are realtors, find a way to invest or team up with an investor. If you're an investor, find a way to list or team up with a listing agent. That's where you're going to get your biggest conversion on those. Now,
Mm-hmm.
what I learned over time, and a lot of this was by accident, working with clients and things like that, where I would be coaching and training and different things like that. I learned that when you're going after people during their first month or two in some kind of a estate process, you're gonna get the low hanging fruit in the first couple of months. This is depending on the market. This is gonna be 10%, as high as 40%. Again, depending on the market, kind of the financial situation of the average family in that market, it could be really a low percentage could be a high percentage, but you're going to get somewhere between 10 and 40% of people that need to sell real estate fast. I happen to be in a market where there's typically high net worth, high equity, houses may be paid off. It's a high percentage of the houses in probate here are paid off. So the average family where I am takes 7 or 8 months to put a house on the market.
Mm.
And I had no idea how much business I was losing.
So I think we should tell people, I don't think we told them what market you're in.
Yeah, I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Okay.
Yep. So I had no idea what kind of business I was losing until it kind of dawned on me with someone else in a comparable market to mine that maybe we needed to stretch that out a little bit and change it. So my new process, and by the way, that what I described, letter, call, letter, call, letter, call, that'll work. That'll get the majority of people without a lot of time investment and without a lot of money investment. That'll get you appointments. What I started doing was taking the first 30 to 45 days and do phone only, only the phone. And when I catch someone on the phone, I'm looking to have a conversation and see if I can guess as to what their situation is. And I'm a great guesser. I'm a great guesser.
And are you talking, who are you talking to? Are you talking to the personal representative? Are you talking to a family member? Who are you talking to?
Either or. It's usually the personal representative.
Okay.
It's normally the personal rep. Sometimes they don't answer and I'll get another family member.
Mm-hmm.
But I will bait them into telling me what's happening without telling me what's happening. So I'll say something like this. Hey, a lot of times in the probate process, there's assets that need to be transferred or potentially sold, things like vehicles, art, real estate, things like that. Is your family needing to transfer title or some of the assets like real estate, are they going to be sold? So what I've done there is I've kind of honed them in on real estate without them knowing that I'm honing them in on real estate.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll
Mm-hmm.
say, do some of the assets, kind of like real estate, need to be sold, or is it just too early for you guys to tell? That's the question that I ask, and I found that that's the magic question. I've
Okay. All right.
never,
Now you need to repeat that so everybody
yep,
can write it down. What's the
okay.
magic question?
So the magic question is the property something that's going to be sold? So that's option one, or is it just too early to tell?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what have I left off of the table with that?
I
We
don't
don't
know.
need real estate. We're not selling. Everybody else is asking that. We have a realtor. We already have it under contract. All these different things. So what I'm doing, I know that the average person that's talking to a stranger, especially someone that called them on the phone, they want to give some resistance. So I'm giving them a way to resist while still telling me what's going on. So
Mm-hmm.
when I ask that question, 95% of everyone I ask says, "Oh, we haven't decided yet." Now I know that a lot of them are lying. Okay, not all of them, but a lot of them are lying. I know that because
Mm-hmm.
what I used to ask is, "Are you going to sell the house? Are you going to keep the house?" And they'd say, "I'm going to keep the house." And then one day I was walking through my neighborhood, and one of the leads that I'd called, his a sign was in his yard, and it was literally 3 days after he told me that he was going to keep the house. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like,
Mm-hmm.
that liar. So,
How
like, if they're
dare
gonna
he?
lie to me, why don't I give them the ability to say something to put me off that still tells me what's happening with the
Right.
real estate?
Okay, I'm gonna have you repeat the question one more time because people, third time's a charm. So go ahead and repeat the question.
The question is, are you guys thinking about selling? And word it however you want. You thinking about
Mm-hmm.
selling, or is it just too early to know yet?
Yeah. So now
Okay.
your process is so you have your list, you get the phone numbers, and then do you have a dialer? Do you manually do it? I mean, are you doing it? Do you have a team? Tell us how that works.
I use a VA.
Okay.
So a VA will typically call, identify who answers the phone, is the right person, and the thing that the VA is asking is if we can send them resources that helps with the probate process.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
No
good.
real estate. Uh, I, the VAs I've found they usually mess up if they try to push into real estate. I've got ways of doing it that I can handle really well. And if sometimes if I hire someone for $5 an hour in another country, they could ask the same question I ask and get a completely different response.
Yes. I know I get those calls. I'm sure anybody that's an investor has gotten those calls, right? That from a
Absolutely.
VA. I had one earlier today and I said, "Oh, are you the VA who's calling for whatever company they were calling with?" Because she was calling to see if I had a property to sell. And I was like, "Well, I tell you what, if you don't like that company that you're working for, why don't you come and work for me?"
Yeah, yeah, on a recorded line.
I'm on a
Yeah,
recorded line, right?
yeah, yeah,
Thank you. You can go ahead and take my name off the list. So,
yeah.
yeah, they probably won't be calling back. Well, it's so funny. I want
Yeah.
to talk about the call thing because, so in the beginning, I did probate too, but I found it more for because I'm not really a listing agent, I'm more of an investor.
Mhm.
So I started doing pre-probate, and someone asked the question, "What's the difference between probate and pre-probate?" So pre-probate is the person has recently passed away. They have not filed any kind of court document. So you can't go and look up in the county records to see, oh, this house, so and so passed away. There's no personal representative and there's no attorney. Now, if you get the probate list from Foreclosures Daily, you'll get the deceased name, you'll get the personal representative, as Bruce was talking about, and then you'll also get the attorney. So there's actually ways to market. I know I've done things where I've marketed to the attorneys, I've marketed to the personal representatives, but when I got into pre-probate, I'll just give you my 2 cents on what worked for me. So in the beginning, I got the list. I downloaded. I had a dialer. I was actually doing it myself, calling up. Oh my gosh, I got because those leads, people passed away like 2 or 3 weeks ago. They do
Yeah,
not want to hear from anybody. And
yeah.
I wouldn't say, "Oh hi, I'm calling about your deceased person's house." And I was like, okay, this is too toxic. Too that didn't work for the pre-probate because there's actually a little bit of time that needs to go by before because they're just still grieving over the family, right? So
Mhm.
now I have found that note cards work the best for me on the pre-probate. We have very simple message or whatever, and because you don't have the luxury of all the personal representative, and literally we're mailing to the deceased person. I mean, like
Yeah.
if it's like Nancy Laabs, the letter will say Laabs family. It won't say like, "Oh, Nancy Laabs, want to buy your," because I'm dead.
Mhm.
And we don't acknowledge the death. I think I want to say that you probably don't either, right? Like if you
I
don't.
definitely do.
Oh, you do. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that because in
Mhm.
pre-probate, I don't mention the death, right?
I
I
wouldn't
don't.
either in
Yeah,
pre-probate.
because it's
Yeah.
like so new. So they'll always ask me, "Well, how'd you get my name?" And I'm not going to go, "Well, Foreclosures Daily has this list of people that recently passed away." No, I just
I've heard
say,
that one. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I'll just say something. This is my secret sauce. I'll just say, I have people. I have clients that are looking to buy a house in your area. So I'm
Mhm.
just mailing out cards to see if you'd be interested in selling. Because the card I send just says, "If you're interested in selling, call me." It doesn't
Yep.
say anything else, right? And that's how I get the conversation going. And then that's it. There's no, and when I do the training, people go, "Well, why don't you say," I had a partner once and she was like, "Well, I think I'm going to acknowledge the death." I was like, "Don't do it, but okay." And she did. Oh my gosh, people were writing back. They were so
Hmm.
angry, so don't do that if you're listening to that. So the main difference between probate and pre-probate is just recently deceased, haven't filed in the courts of whatever county that you're in or state. There's no personal representative and there's no attorney on the list that you were to get. And then
Yeah.
probate, you get all of that information. So,
If you acknowledge the death in pre-probate, it's kind of admitting that you're stalking the obituary list because that's what they think that you're doing. That's
mm,
that's what they think you're doing. And I know
yes.
it's not. You're getting a list and it's more filtered, but like, hey, we nobody knows about this. No strangers know about this. How else would you have gotten it? You must have been looking at the
Yeah, looking
obituary.
at the obits. Well, you know what? Back in the day, I think that's how people did. Like I'm saying, old times when there was a newspaper and you
Hmm.
could open it up. And that was actually a long time ago. One of my original coaches said, "Get a newspaper and go through the obituaries, go to the tax records, and find the owner." I mean,
Amazing.
I,
Yeah. To a degree. Now, obviously, if you just do like circle marketing where you don't acknowledge the death, that's fine. But
yeah. So now you're
yeah,
saying that you do acknowledge it or you
I
don't
do.
acknowledge
I
it.
do. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
do.
I've done it both ways. And it depends on your kind of skill level and where you're at as an individual. And uh, what your offer is. It really depends on what your offer is. So I
Mm-hmm.
smoke screen the real money making benefit that I get out of the process. I don't hide it, but I don't shove it front and center either.
Like, what do you mean by that? Explain what you mean by that.
So my initial offer is to present myself as a probate concierge.
Mm.
So essentially, I'm always going to ask through my opening. I'm always going to say, "Hey, I know my call's a little bit out of the blue. This is about the estate of Mrs. Labs. Um, Listen, I don't want to take a bunch of your time. Could I take just a fast second and tell you why I called?" Yes. So that's I never dive into anything until they've said yes, and then I'll say, essentially, I have a service locally that acts almost like a concierge or a turnkey service to help with all estate administration processes. I don't want to bore you with a million details. Could I ask if I sent you a packet with some resources? Do you think you could look at it and maybe give me a call if there was ever anything that you needed?
Yeah. Yeah. Because then
Yes.
you get yes, yes.
Yeah.
So you've done both ways, but you like, so it sounds like what you're doing now is you're calling them, and that's for you that works. Because some people don't like calling, right? So,
Mhm.
so would you, if they were like, they're a newer investor or realtor and they don't feel comfortable making the call, would you suggest the letter call, or was it letter call letter?
Sure. So yes, I would. I would suggest a letter ahead of time. Now, I send letters. I wait 30 days. Like I'm gonna try to get half of my list on the phone, and that keeps my letter costs down. So
Hmm.
my letters go out. I've already scrubbed out half of my list. Not out on a
Okay.
campaign, but I already know what's happening with that house.
Okay. Gotcha.
And
So
then
can
the
you talk
people,
about your CRM that you do? So do you download the list into a CRM that you can like, or do you just use Excel spreadsheet?
it's
You're
called
laughing.
Google Sheets. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I totally use CRM.
Okay,
So I use Monday to track my pipeline.
okay,
So everybody that I know has accepted my offer to send resources and that has indicated that there is a house and maybe they don't know what they're going to do yet. That's
yeah,
a seller. 90%
yeah.
of the time, that's a seller. I use Monday to track my processes. So
Okay,
Monday.com has a bunch of
Monday.com. All right, yay, I
build it
like it.
yourself CRMs.
Well, now, do you focus primarily on the single family? Are you into multifamily? So, on a listing, would you do anything? And then, but on investing, do you have a certain criteria that you use?
Yeah, investing, my criteria, well, it depends on with investing. If I'm going to wholetail it, I love wholetailing. Love wholetailing.
Now, you're going to have to explain what that is because some people might not know what that is.
So a lot of you guys know what wholesaling is. Wholesaling, you're going to sell your contract, you're selling your paperwork. Wholetailing, you're reselling the property, but you're reselling it before you close. So you're writing a contract. Let's pretend it's a $100,000 property and I write you a contract for 70,000. And at the same time I say, "Hey, look, I'm going to close. This is guaranteed money. We're going to close in 30, 45 days. Um, but I'm repairing the property now and I'm going to try to find my next buyer now. Are you
Gotcha.
okay
Okay.
with that?"
Hmm.
And they say yes. And I put the house on the market and I spruce it up a little bit. I do minor things just to make it look good. And I try to get the $100,000 buyer to write a contract to me. And then that
Hmm.
way, in 30 days, I go to closing and I give my 70. And the next day, I get the 100.
Okay. Now, is that for newer investors? Is that risky?
If you know your numbers, if
Okay.
you and I would argue this with all investors. This has
Yes.
all investors can get in trouble if you get emotionally attached to a property without properly pricing it. If you don't know how to properly price a house, hire a experienced agent to do a broker price opinion for you for 100.
Hmm.
Okay. Know your value. This
Yes.
is no less risky than any other type of investment if you know what the values are.
Exactly. Exactly. Because it sounds good. Like, oh, I get a house, I'm going to pay 70, and then I'm going to sell it for 100. And people that are listening that want to get into wholesaling might go, well, what's the difference? But So basically, the difference is, if I'm understanding, you are buying that, you are definitely going to close on that house for 70, regardless if you have an in buyer for the contract, because maybe something happened and, or you decide to keep it. So,
Mhm.
okay. Well, we talked about like investing in, let's talk about the market right now. Because why would someone want to, I do pre probate, you do probate. Why should realtors or investors even care about that? Because why should they care? Because they have a sphere of influence, right? So why should
Yeah.
they care about these different ways to market to?
Well, first off, if you're a realtor, okay, investors, the answer is much easier for you guys. If you're a realtor, your business is built on three pillars. It's built on sphere of influence. It's built on an attraction business. So maybe you're farming or you have YouTube videos or things that cause people to draw to you. You need a chase pillar of your business as well. You need a segment that you are chasing, whether you're marketing to them or calling them. Neat. That's a well-rounded business. Sphere of
Mm-hmm.
influence. I've got a bunch of friends whose sphere of influence completely dried up last year. My sphere of influence dried up last year. My sphere of influence went from 15 to 20 closings a year to 3 last year.
Mm-hmm.
I was fine because I have the other two pillars. If you're an investor, you can ignore the sphere of influence. Okay. Why probate? It's underserved. A lot of your competition is scared. A lot of your competition doesn't know that it exists. And those that do know that it exists are doing it wrong. So all you have to do is do it right. And I know everyone's like, how do I do it right? It's not
And that's why
complicated.
that's what
Okay.
call me. That's what I
Yeah.
say. Well, how do I
Yeah.
know about pre-probate? Well, you have to call Nancy, right? So,
Yeah.
and
Right.
I,
Right.
what, I would agree with that because what I have found, because I go and I teach at our local realtor association here,
Hmm.
and I teach on investing strategies, and so I talk about lead generation using probate, pre-probate. And I get deers in the eye, and these are all realtors. They are like, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I didn't know you could do that. And when realtors look at the cost of paying for leads, because most brokerages don't provide leads. I mean, a few do, but the really big ones don't provide leads. And, they're expensive. They're expensive leads. Where if you go with a company like Foreclosures Daily, I mean, it's more affordable than you would think.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I have found is, so for as an investor, you know how you were talking about you have to partner with a realtor to actually maximize those leads. So for me, when I get my list, I segment it into, okay, these are the properties I'm going to market to for as an investor. These, because of the price point, like $500,000 and up, I don't want those as an investment property, but they might be a good listing, right? So I
Hmm.
partner with realtors so that we're maximizing the leads on the list, right?
Yep.
So that's the key. And I think just education, about who's doing it well.
Yeah. You want to
So
know a little secret that I never
I
talk about?
do. Yes, we want,
Yeah.
this is all about the
All
secrets.
right. I never talk about this. I do occasionally, but you could, if you build a team of service providers that also work in this space, clean out crews, estate sale companies, locksmiths, financial planners, big time financial planners, attorneys. Build this team where you're essentially offering services. And when someone says, well, I don't know if I'm going to sell the house yet, but I've got a house full of junk. Well, let me get you with my clean out company. They can pay you and your
Yes.
marketing doesn't cost anything.
So funny that you brought that up because I do the same thing. I have a team of like, estate plan or whatever. But
Hmm.
recently, I might have mentioned this on the last call or our last webinar, I'm not sure. But if not, here's my secret. So I was at a networking event and I was talking about the pre-probate and helping families through, a really tough time. And I met a lady, Christy Kay, and she owns 3 funeral homes here. So when
Hmm.
she found out what I do and how I help families that have a loved one that have passed away, she had me come out and train her staff. Now I'm a lead source for when their families come in and they have real estate and they don't know what to do with it. I was like, okay, then. And they had me write articles for their newsletter. So
Oh,
you can, I'm saying this as an investor, but also as a realtor, that you can help you can become, like you were saying, like a source of where people can come to solve a problem. Because sometimes
Mhm.
people don't want to sell the house, or maybe they want to turn it into a rental or whatever it is, so if you have a team of people that can assist them, then,
Yep.
like with I'm thinking financial planner, tax advisor, if they decide to
Mhm.
keep it as a rental, that kind of thing. But the more you get into the niche of the probate, pre-probate, and then, what you said, what I liked about your LinkedIn post was clients will remember, or clients something, and then referrals will remember you. Because if you are working with a family that's distressed because mom or dad passed away, it's the family home, and you're able to help them, you know what? They're going to tell everybody about it. Now, by the same
Yeah.
token, if you screw them up, they're going to tell
Yeah.
everybody about it. But if you can build that trust factor in with these folks, you have a pipeline for life just on
Absolutely.
referrals. So,
Yep.
yeah, I love that.
Most of my people have come back for
Yes.
repeat deals. Many of them sold mom or dad's house and they were like, what am I going to do with this money? Let's let Bruce put it into a flip. I
Mm,
have people that have inherited wealth. They don't know real estate. They don't know what to do with the money. I get to use their money to buy properties. They're essentially my
yes.
hard money lenders.
Yes. Well, okay, that was going to segue right into our next topic, which is funding, because you and I talked about before. So let's talk about, okay, I'm a new investor, and let's say it's a distressed house. It's not, I'm not going to get my traditional loan. So what should a new investor do about buying the property? Because I think sometimes people like, okay, they want to be an investor. So let's put the realtor beside,
Yeah.
to the side for a second. Let's talk investors. I want to buy the house for $70,000. Where do I get the money?
I don't have an investor. I don't have any money. And this is where the majority of wholesalers, which I would bet a ton of people here are in this boat. This is where a majority of the wholesalers enter this market. And what you don't know is that money is all around you and you can access it. So, little bit risky, and I'm going to touch on it and I'm going to leave it. But if you're looking for down payment money, let's say all you need is down payment. I need my 20% down. I'm going to get a loan or hard money for the rest of this flip. And you have a good credit score, you could credit stack and get the down payment from 0% interest credit cards on your business.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Very easy. Now you
Yep.
need to have a plan and be in and out. So if you're looking for just down payment money, credit stack if your credit score is solid. You need a credit
Yes.
score of 740, 750.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, hard money is the name of the game, or private money. And
Mm-hmm.
if you're in this space and you put probate or investor on your profiles, you'll have hard money lenders reaching out to you. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, the money is always there. You just need to know, well, first of all, you have to find a deal, because the
Mhm.
money in making in real estate is when you buy the property. You got to buy it right. So it goes back to, doing the marketing, the prospecting, knowing your numbers, and then the money will follow. Like I
Yep.
know I was telling you before the call is that we work with a mom, and she was really hesitant to get into real estate investing. She wants to, but she's scared because of the interest rates, because they're high right now. Well, you know what? As an investor, they're always high. You're never going to have, I mean, not, I haven't seen in my lifetime, I'm sure you haven't, Bruce, a 2% interest rate, unless you're doing subject to, on an investment property. I mean, generally, it's like 5, 6, 7%. And I just purchased a property, an investment property, and my interest rate was 6.25, which I normally get 5.25. So I was like, yay. Um, and the thing is that the interest is completely deductible. We don't talk enough about the tax deductions. So, well, when you list, well, okay, we're going to talk for about another 5 minutes. So tell us about, okay, everybody likes the good stories, right? So what was one of your most challenging stories? You got three
Okay.
minutes.
Yeah, this is gonna be really easy. This was there's been tons of challenging stories, but this is one that will scare you at first and then make you be like, hey, I want to go do this. So I called someone one time, and it was one of those calls. This guy was one of those calls that had me, and I'm pretty good on the phone, had me go, I'm never calling again. It was brutal. He was so rude. So I hung the phone up and legitimately I went, I'm not calling today. I'm done. I'm done. So I go about my day. I'm sitting there fuming. I probably cussed the next telemarketer that called me out, just ironically. Okay. And my phone rings and his number is on my screen. And I was like, oh man, what's he doing? Is he telling me that he's suing? Like what's going on? And I answered the phone and he said, hey, I have to apologize. He goes, I get a lot of calls from people that are offering to buy houses and different things like that. And he said, I just had enough. And he said, I never know who's legitimate and who's not, but I went and looked you up. And he said, I found your LinkedIn and I found your website. And he was like, you're legit, aren't you? And I was like, yeah, I am. I've been doing this for a while. And he said, well, I did inherit 4 properties and I am selling all 4 of them. So most challenging story was only challenging for a few minutes. It was a challenging single call that turned into 4 deals.
Yeah, that's
4
nice.
deals.
That's nice. And I do think like people, just briefly, I'm going to talk about this is like your social media presence when you're doing this kind of marketing for probate and pre-probate, because it used to be, people would get up on the yellow pages. Do they even have yellow pages anymore? So they're going to go to social media. So you have to have somewhat of a professional, at least a professional persona that you help families because they need to relate to you. You know what I mean? And so I'm not going to say anything about, people's social media profiles. I'm just saying if you want to work with these families, just, have somebody objectively look at your social media profile and give you feedback. Would you say that's a good idea?
Expand that to media in general.
Media, yes.
This is one of the things that a lot of people get overwhelmed with. Start with LinkedIn. Go to Active Rain or Google Blogger or something like that. Go to ChatGPT and write a blog about the probate process. Put it up on Blogger, Active Rain, something free. If you want to go get a WordPress website, do that. If you want to do a video, put it on YouTube. Okay, I want people, when they look you up, to find legitimate estate and probate related stuff. Same with any niche that you're in.
Yes. Whether it be foreclosures or divorce lists or, I'm sure a lot of us could write divorce lists, divorce stuff. Keep it clean though.
Yeah, right. Yes.
Okay, Bruce, I'm going to go and hang on because I'm going to go and share my screen again. And we're going to come back for any Q&A before we sign off again. So,
great.
All right, guys. So if you have questions, drop them in the chat. And I'm going to go ahead and finish out the presentation on ForeclosuresDaily.com and what you get. So number one, when you become a client, you kind of become part of the family, right? That's how I've been adopted into the family, if you will. I'm doing the webinars because I have a relationship with them. But they're going to show you and walk you through like the 6-step mailing campaign, the follow-up strategy. You get scripts. Remember I was telling you about the marketing to attorneys and the personal representatives. So you get templates for that, professionally designed postcards and letter. You get my Winning Deals and Heels book. I mean, that should be, worth the price of the admission, I guess. And, you'll get links for discounted mail rates, skip tracing. And then we'll have webinars on marketing techniques like we did tonight. And then you'll also get a copy. I did a pre-probate webinar. If you haven't seen it, it's on the YouTube channel of ForeclosuresDaily.com. And the cool thing, and I know Joe's been sending out emails because I get them. So they have a 4th of July sale. You need to get a hold of Angela and Joe about this. But this is our webinar special through Friday night. And you can buy 1 county and get 1 county free. So I'm in Texas and I market to about 7 to 10 counties, depending on what list I'm doing. Bruce, how many counties do you do at any given time?
Any given time up to 4.
Okay, 4.
Normally just 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Depends
Okay.
on
some of my counties are like the secondary market, so there's a smaller list. So. Yeah. And so depending on, the more you spend, the more counties that you get, the more money you're going to save. So you can spend $600 and just get like 3 months worth. Now, I will say if you're going to do pre-probate or probate, you need to know that sometimes right when you get the list, it's going to take a little bit of time, like maybe 25, 30 days before you get your first unless you're like Bruce and you just hit the jackpot right off the first dial, depending on how you're going to market. And then $999,000 for 26 weeks. So you buy one, get one. And then the best deal is if you just do it. If you're going to commit, just do it for a year. So it's $1,750. That's the biggest savings, and you get buy one and you get one. Okay, that means get one, right? Get one. And then if you're in Florida, they have for the foreclosures, it's $479 for 3 months. And then you can see the price there. It's $799 for 6 months. And you see how you save. So if you go for $12.99 for a year, it's over a $600 savings. And then you can always add on a la carte, such as the absentee, free and clear tax lates for $1,000 for $500. But do reach out to your representative, and they will get you all set up with the list. And you can even ask them about the different lists that they have and that kind of thing. I want to thank everybody for coming to the webinar tonight, and wishing everyone a great holiday, and be safe out there. I think we might have a few. Do we have more questions here? Yes, we do. Hold on. So let me go down here. Okay, so Bruce, can you give more examples of professional services that you can you see this to offer to the state? I know he mentioned clean out. Okay.
Okay. So professional services, first off, you want to be of a mindset where you solve anything that you feel through conversation they need, which means that sometimes you're going to have a conversation, you're going to be like, they need this, I don't have that service. Guess what? Money's on the line, you will find them a solution. So don't worry if you don't have a full list. I'll give you another thing on professional services before I give you some basics. Simply offering estate administration services and resources is going to disarm the prospect that you're talking to and make it so much easier to shift into real estate. So I'm doing that to disarm them. I'm not expecting many people on that first introduction or even second conversation. I'm not expecting them to go, hey, I need this and this and this and this. I'm not expecting that. But the fact that I offered it disarms and allows me to shift into real estate without feeling too ambulance chasey or hearse chasey. Now, I'm going to provide those services, but normally it's me making the proposal based on our conversation. So estate sales, clean outs, locksmith services, winterizations if you're in a cold market, landscaping, I'm going fast, sorry, gutter cleaning, attorney referrals, tax advisor, appraiser, antiques buyer, car buyer, antiques appraisers. Okay.
And as they start talking to people, they'll kind of, when they start asking the right questions, you'll kind of know what the family needs. Because
absolutely,
whether you're a realtor or an investor, you have to have your team just in case. Because if I was doing a flip, I need to clean out a house, I need to have a clean out crew or landscaping or whatever. So now there was a question about booking calls with attorneys. So did you ever market directly to attorneys, and how did that go?
So I don't market to attorneys. I call attorneys.
Okay.
In my conversation, when I call attorneys, either the paralegal or the attorney, whoever answers, it doesn't matter, is, hey, I'm in the real estate space. Last year, I had a couple of clients of mine that were needing some estate administration help, and I've been meaning to call an attorney for a while and find someone that does that kind of work. Is that the kind of work you guys do? Why, yes, it is. Do you have room on your schedule if I were to periodically send you someone? Why, yes, we do. Why would they say no?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then listen, I don't want to just throw business around. Is there any chance that I might be able to swing by sometime in the next week and see your practice for 10 minutes? That's it.
Yep.
You have an appointment.
Yep.
Okay. So you need to learn the art of asking questions that people legitimately, in a way that legitimately can't be rejected. Most of us ask questions that are really easy to be rejected. Hey, do you think you could send me referrals? No. Yeah. Do you need someone with a service list like this? No. Okay.
All
Easy
right.
to
Nice
reject
talking to you.
those
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I know, if you are trying to break into the attorney market, because they have association meetings, and you can, doesn't have to be a probate attorney. You just need to kind of meet someone through networking that can get you in front of them, because
Mhm.
a lot of people are going after attorneys to, realtors, other people, so, and then also the kind of attorney they are, because if they're, depending on the list that you're using, you want it to be probate, you don't want it to be, I don't know, divorce. I guess they could handle that too, but right, yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, Bruce, thank you so much. That brings us to a close for tonight.